So there are different types of topical membrane, and this one is Aqua Defense. Aqua Defense is something that Lowe's, I believe Lowe's sells, and a couple other tile stores sell this type of product. So if you look at it, it's a liquid rubber is basically what it is. Very much like Redgard. In fact, basically the same thing. So it's a latex type of liquid rubber. In other words, it's water soluble. And I have only used it, I think, once before. Yeah, once before I've used this stuff. So it's an aqua type looking color, I guess, some type of bluish type of color, green if you will. And I believe it dries green, a brighter green, I believe. Maybe it's a darker green, I forget. Anyway, normally I use Redgard by default because Home Depot sells it and I get all my material from Home Depot. So this is my little tray that I use when I'm applying Redgard, and it gets a lot of use. So Redgard is obviously also a topical membrane. It's pink when it first goes on. Coloration on this video is not that good. And then it dries a dark red, same as you would see there. So I get it all over myself, it never comes off. But anyway, for the purposes of just showing that this stuff basically goes on the same way and how it's applied, I'm going to do a little video clip of this stuff. When you get something like this, it depends on when it was shipped. If it's been sitting around for a long time, you're going to see a little moisture at the top, almost like water. And if you get a gallon like that, get a little stir stick and stir it up really good. Get all that water mixed up with the product itself before you try and use it. And then what I generally do, I'm not going to pour it in the trough right now because I'm not ready to do the walls. I normally do that with a roller when I'm ready to do the walls, but in this case the walls are still drying. So all I'm going to do at this point is the curb of this shower and all the corners. The corners of a shower are always the Achilles heel. Whenever I do a demo on a shower, where I see the most damage is right on the edges of the curb, both left and right, and usually on the outside. So I have other videos on how to build a curb. I have my own process in order to make sure that I never have any issues with my curbs. And one of those things is putting a topical membrane on my curb. And the reason I always do these corners is because that's usually where I see mold and mildew occur in a shower. Everybody seems to get mold and mildew right in the corner areas, and they're always bleaching that corner area, and then eventually that mold and mildew grows back because you have a wet shower pan. And the wet shower pan will always stay wet, and therefore you will always have mold and mildew. So in order to negate some of that mold and mildew in the corners, where the vertical meets the horizontal, I always paint a couple of coats in the corner. And I get it in pretty good. Make sure there's enough of it. You don't scrimp on this stuff at all. I also have this habit of painting off of the wall about 9 or 10 inches. Just started doing that because it just seemed like it's a good idea. Although having said that, I never paint the entire floor, although I've seen some tilers that have done that. And as I've said on previous videos, I'm not comfortable painting the entire floor, although I think Redgard, which is the same thing, Redgard, the company that makes it, custom building products, if you go to their website, they allow for this stuff not only to go as a topical membrane on your shower floor, but they also, believe it or not, they also allow for this stuff to be your membrane for your shower. So normally we do PVC type membranes, otherwise known as a shower pan liner. And Custom Building Products says that you can use Redgard as a shower pan liner, which I have never done, and I'm not sure I ever want to. That's kind of a stretch for me to take take a topical membrane to the next level and literally paint the floor, whatever the subfloor would be, paint it with Redgard. I guess I would probably put Durock or Hardybacker down on the floor first, and then fill in all the cracks and everything before I did this. And then this, or Redgard, would get painted in the same fashion I'm doing this. Probably at least 3 coats, I'm imagining. And then you would pour your pan right on top of it. It's just something I would never do. I'm not saying it would work or not work, but I can't use my customer as a guinea pig, because I don't want to get a call back saying that they had a failure. Not that there would be one, I'm just saying. So I always also, same as I'm doing on the floor, I also do all the corners of the niche. And it's extremely rare where I've ever taken out a niche. Niches are kind of a new thing, meaning people have only been doing them in bathroom, or in showers rather, for probably the last 10, maybe 12 years or so. Maybe a little bit longer. So there hasn't been an opportunity for me yet to tear out a shower that has had a niche in order for me to see if there's a lot of issues, but all tilers think that there's going to be issues if you don't do something proactive like this. And I guess I'm on board with that. I don't think they're a huge issue. I happen to have a niche in my shower, and my niche doesn't see a lot of water, not as much as you'd think. And because when you tile on a niche, same as you do on the rest of your walls, you're sealing all the grout, and more importantly, you're putting a slope on the tile that you do on the bottom of the niche. The tile will be sloped like this so that if water gets inside of there, it naturally wants to run off and then down. So I just don't see niches as the biggest Achilles heel of a shower that people seem to think it is. But having said that, I'm very adherent to making sure that there isn't a problem by doing this as much as I can, especially the corners. Every corner of every shower I do always gets a minimum of 2 coats, usually 3. Flat surfaces like this will get 2 coats, and if I have enough, I'll do 3. But I'm not too concerned about the flat surfaces. More concerned about the corners. So, no matter what board you use, everybody's focused on using Hardybacker, and they're using Durock and Wonderboard and all these products. They're just so tough, and no water will ever bother this thing at all. Well, sure it will. If you're using Hardybacker, if you're using Durock, Wonderboard, and you do not do this process, you will have issues. None of the boards that are out there that people use are resistant to water. Not a one. There is a product out there called Dense Board. Dense Board, Dense Shield, something like that. And it basically has this on it already, not this particular product, but it already has a topical membrane both on the front and the back of it. So that is probably the only board that is waterproof right out of the box without doing what I'm doing now. And the few times that I've used it, I've continued to do what I'm doing now despite that fact that it already has a barrier embedded on it. So I guess my point is, it doesn't matter what your backer board is. If you want to use Hardybacker, great. If you want to use Durock, great. Wonderboard, great. Any backer board, great. But you must do this. If you don't do this, water will still, if you don't do your grout correctly, and if you don't seal your grout, water could penetrate through, get to your backer board. No matter how strong it is, it's still going to take in water, and you're still going to have issues with regard to mold and mildew, and or water leaking into your dining room or whatever is below your shower. So don't get too focused on your backer board. Backer board is there to hold up your tile, and that's about all it's for. This is more important. When you move into a house, unless you have that house custom built, this is never done. So most all the time, a failure with regard to your shower walls, curb, etc. More often than not, 99.9999% of the time, the reason you had the failure is because they didn't do a waterproofer. Builders will not waterproof any walls. And again, it doesn't matter what board they use. I've seen some new construction where they actually have used HardieBacker, or they have gone, you know, it's a little more expensive. They have gone to the expense of using HardieBacker or using Durarock or Wonderboard. And I'm like, oh great, these guys are right on top of it. And then when you tear it out, you realize they still had issues because they never did this step. So this step trumps almost everything else that you can do, because you don't want water to ever penetrate where the water is the most. And all these areas are susceptible to that water penetration. So that's why all these areas get extra care when I do a shower. Another product out there called Curdy. Curdy is a sister company, Curdy Schluter. Makes also a topical membrane that you basically have to glue on with your thin set. So if you can imagine all the work you would have to go through, cutting all those strips, setting thin set, troweling it out, overlapping your Curdy everywhere there's a crease. A lot of expense, a lot of work to do the Curdy method, and water will not penetrate that Curdy board, which is wonderful. Actually, it's a fabric. It's not really a board, it's a fabric that's water impenetrable. And is it a good product? Absolutely, it's a good product. Have I ever used it? Absolutely not. As I said, it's a lot of work. It's a huge expense. Curdy Schluter makes tons of money off of their products. To give you a typical example, if I were to do this shower in their product, it would cost my customer somewhere in the range of about $600 to $800 for all the product that they have to do a typical shower. The shower kits that they sell at Home Depot with that product is not quite enough to do a larger shower like this, and it doesn't come with everything you need out of the box, so you're still going to have to end up purchasing more of their product, specific to their brand, of course. And by the time you get done, as I said, you spent a good part of anywhere from $600 to $800 or better. So that's how it looks. Preliminary coat, which will be done over again, as well as the walls. The walls will get done as soon as all this mud dries. The walls will get done with with 2 coats, and all of this area that I've done will get secondary coats as well. Usually if I have enough, I'll do the curb in 3 coats. So anyway, getting back to the expense of the Curdy thing. Redgard typically costs $51 plus tax for a gallon of Redgard at Home Depot. $51. And I'm able to do a whole shower for $51. Again, it's not my money, it's the customer who spends that money, but still, you know, why spend $600 or $800 when you can spend $51? This product, which Lowe's sells, is $46 plus tax. So again, you're accomplishing the same thing either way. but at a fraction of the cost. So I don't really see the point. But they have people that, with Curdy Schluter, that are married to the product because Curdy Schluter sends them to school to show them how to apply their product, of course. Forget where the school was located at. And so it's a sales technique. The more they tell you how to use the product, the more likely you are to use it. So they become, the people who go to the schools become their robots and their salespeople ultimately. Because I'm almost positive you've never seen a Curdy Schluter commercial on TV or heard about it on the radio or anything to that nature. So this is really all word of mouth through contractors. Contractors that have either heard about it from another contractor or discover it somehow and end up going to their school to learn how to install it, and then, as I said, become their representatives, their sales representatives. Contractor is the biggest one. In the time that it's taken me to do this, which hasn't been too long, I would not even be close to doing the Curdy brand on even the area that I've done it on, the curb and the niche. I would not even be ready to paint yet with regard to the preparation that they require before you even apply the product. And then of course it has to set up overnight. You cannot set tile on it right away, where this will dry in about an hour. I can put a second coat on, and then about 2 or 3 hours after that I can start tiling. So very expedient. So there you go. That's about all I can say to this product. I will come back again when it's dry and I've done the whole thing, and you will actually get a better look at what it looks like. But this is what it is. It is Aqua Defense. Okay, this shower is just about ready to tile. This Mappy brand Aqua Defense is what this green stuff is. As I showed you earlier, it's kind of an aqua type of color when it's wet, and then when it's dry it's a very dark green. So the whole, well, you saw the process of doing around the perimeter and the curb and all of the walls I did later on after all this mud dried. And I think the tile is going to stop about here. I think I'm putting a bull nose up here right before the shower head. So I only take it, paint it up to that point. And it's you know, it's like Redgard. It's basically the same thing. Aqua Defense and Redgard, probably the same chemical makeup, but it's a liquid rubber. And you know, should water ever penetrate through these grout lines, it's going to hit this stuff. Obviously the niche all got done with it also. It's going to hit this stuff, and it's not going to ruin your board. Whatever your board is behind it, it won't ruin your board. And so that's why I like it. Any topical membrane, for that matter, is better than none at all. And as I said, this is probably, I don't know, another 20-30 minutes or so. Let these last little remnants dry, put a fan on it, expedite it, and then I can start grouting. So what I do right off the bat is I set this tile, the floor tile, which I did last night, as well as a niche. Those two things have to happen first before I start setting up my wall tile, because my wall tile wraps around the niche. But before I even do that, I'm going to grout, so that all my grout goes up into the corners and the edges and all that stuff, and the tile sits on top of that. So that's the way I do it. So once I get through grouting, the grout process will probably take me about 30 minutes or so. Let that dry for about 45 minutes, an hour. Put a fan on it, and then I can start running my tile up. Obviously I have to let the green guard, I'm not going to call it green guard, Aqua Defense. I have to let that dry up first before I start. But anyway, that's the process of putting it on. And as I said, don't scrimp with it. You know, this is 2 layers and 3 layers in the corners, 3 layers in the corners on the floor as well as the vertical, and then 3 layers of this stuff on the curb as well. So definitely don't scrimp. I didn't even quite go through a full gallon, so you'll have plenty to do your shower without a doubt.